Yechia Melech HaMashiach, how's everybody doing? This broadcast is about educating the children, specifically for the Jewish population, but as well, this is a general discussion about what are the best options in the modern era for educating our children. I know everybody's busy, so I'm going to try to get down to it. The point I want to focus on today is you have to understand what education has become. Who are the first people who made universities? What is education today? When we speak about schools, what are schools? Now, this might sound like ridiculous questions or things that are very obvious, but it's not as simple as what meets the eye. In order to understand where the first universities were made, we have to understand what the point of those universities were, and in order to understand that, we have to understand when education became a government-related topic, something that the government controlled, something that the government decided. Um, so let's put it like this: the first billionaire to ever exist in the modern world was the billionaires that made their money and fortune off of the oil industry. In the beginning, it was kerosenes for the lamps, and then it turned into the automobile industry. Now, when the reason they were very successful and the reason he was able to become a billionaire, successful speaking money wise, was because he killed or bought out all of his competition. There's a long documentary that speaks about this in depth. It's called the Oiligarchs. Um, Let me try to find it, and I'll try to leave a link in the description as well. The point is that at that time in the United States, um, at that time in the United States, most of the children knew multiple languages. Um, there was a very high level of an education for most of the people, and and it's just that people were just much smarter. Imagine you have kids walking around that know seven languages. They know religions. They know faiths. Like let's say a Jewish kid would know everything about Christianity, everything about Islam, everything about Judaism, which is the kind of level we saw the Sanhedrin were on. The 70 sages that judged the Jewish people, they were on that level. They not only studied Judaism, they studied everything. Secret societies, all kinds of things. Imagine the average child in America knew seven languages, 10 languages, Russia, English, Chinese. So that's the kind of high level. You see that in the Talmud as well. There was a very big abundance. It was the imperial age of information. Today, if you're one kind of sector of a kind of group of people, you only learn what that narrow minded group of people are teaching. You don't know anything else outside your little bubble. The reason this happens is because there's no competition in the educational system. Why is there no competition? Because the government runs it. So there's one government which runs the competition in their area, so nobody else is competing in that space. Or to the United States, so it's the United States government. And even in the private schools, the government has their hands so far into the business of the private schools, whether it's with monetary assistance, whether it's with regulations, enforcing regulations, that even the private schools kind of become a half public school or a half government establishment. And what the main thing is that the educational system is not in the private sector. When it's not in the private sector and there's very heavy regulation, that lowers the competition. When there's no competition, that lowers the quality. But there's something even deeper you need to know about the educational system. And that is that there's something else going on which is very, very sinister, which is that there is an agenda to keep people stupid. Yes, my friends, there's an agenda to keep people stupid. Very heavy regulation. So, what is that agenda to keep people stupid? And how could it be that it's happening? And why would the government have an interest to keep people dumbed down? Right? What does the government gain when the population is dumb? Now, first of all, who's the first one to come up with this great idea that people should be stupider? The answer is this oligarch that made his fortune off killing and stealing from other people and manipulating and making bad deals and making people broke because of what he did. He decided that it's very high. He had a very bad name. He had a very bad reputation because everybody knew that he was a thief, son of a thief. So what he decided was he's going to donate and he's going to become a nice guy. And he went. It was like the first televisions were just being put up, and he was already buying ads, if you may, that shows him giving out dimes to little kids, walking around the streets, being a nice guy, and he all of a sudden realized how powerful what that effect had on the people. So him being a nice guy on TV for 5 minutes basically lowered the perception of the people. But as long as the population was educated about all the scams he did and whatever, and how money works and how this thief and this guy made all his money, so it was very hard to conduct theft, bribery, robbery, corruption, to put politicians into power, because money is only worth what you can buy with it and what society will allow you to buy with it. You know, if you knew that someone's killing and stealing and robbing, you wouldn't want to sell him stuff. You wouldn't want to partner with him to do business. So people were very wary of people, like these crooks. So what he realized slowly is that in order in order to in order to have a effect on the population, you need to do something deeper. You need to keep them dumb. So what he did was he pretended to be donating universities in the United States, and he opened up the first universities that were kind of locked in with a bunch of paperwork with the government. And in those universities, the one thing that he wanted to make sure was that the people stay dumb. So there's going to be much more sports, much less learning, much more activities that kids anyway tend to gravitate to them, but are not necessarily good for them, right? So that was the plan. That was the plan. The plan was to keep the people dumb, and that's what's happening now. And also, the government eventually kind of liked this idea, because also the government doesn't like when people are too smart. When people are smart, they have very high demands. They don't want all their money taken away in the name of taxes, because nobody can track taxes. The government can't even track taxes. Every once in a while, a story breaks that trillions of dollars went down the drain, and nobody knows where and what and how. And anyone that asks questions ends up like Seth Rich, a young 20-year-old guy, 30-year-old guy, shot in the head with 2 bullets. The official police report says it was a robbery. Seth Rich. Search up Seth Rich. The official report says it was a robbery. But really, his wallet was still in his pocket, his watch was still on. How could that be a robbery? The point is that people that go against the system find themselves a lot of times dead. Now, why am I saying this? In order for a population to be smart and wise and make good choices, you need to have a good educational system. A good educational system means you know at least 10 languages off the back of your hand. You learned and studied the major religions in the world. At least you went over them, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. You don't have to believe it in order to learn it. Back in the day, Alex Jones brings this up many, many times, and he says, I used to walk around, I went to the library to buy Mein Kampf in order to learn and understand the mind of Hitler when he was killing people. And people were like, what are you, a Nazi? Why are you buying Mein Kampf? No, you see, that's what happens. Now, even in Chabad, like I'm Jewish and I'm in Chabad, which is a group within Judaism, if I'm learning a Safar Ben Ish Chai, which is I'll have people look at me, what, you're learning Ben Ish Chai? So this whole concept of narrowing down the amount of intellectual space that you grasp is terrible for the people. It's good for the government because the government wants everyone to trust them and not ask questions. It's like a parent that drinks and beats his kids up and does a lot of stupid things and doesn't support the family. And he also doesn't want to go to therapy because he's scared that if he says something wrong in the therapy to the therapist, they might take away his kids. So how do you want to fix your issues if you don't want to fix your issues, or so go to jail. Let them take your kids. Maybe that's the best thing for you. After a couple of years, maybe you'll be able to have your kids back. Maybe you need a slap in the face. Maybe that's what you need. Don't be scared of success. Now, I'm not saying that you should definitely go down that path. But if you're not man enough to fix your own shit and stop smoking and stop drinking and stop, uh, I don't know, whatever, and getting serious about life and getting your stuff together, then maybe you should allow someone else to do it. Now, the point I'm saying is, let's go back to the point of education. The education concept is as follows. Today, in the Orthodox Chabad schools, it's a very open level of education, and you will get a lot more than you will get in a religious school or in other religious schools or in public schools, because a Chabad school has a lot of advantages. Number one, the Chabad schools are a private school, which is already better than a public school. Because a public school is the agenda of the government straight in your face. A private school is the agenda of the government trying to sneak up into your face. So it's already better. Obviously, the best thing to do is homeschool your children, to learn online, to become a teacher. But in order to do that, you have to have a good income. Not everyone can do that. So if you have a lot of money and you really can plug the retirement right now, then you should definitely homeschool your children or find a private teacher that will be able to teach your children. If you cannot afford to teach your child or to find a private teacher that will teach your child, then your best next option is to send him to a private school. And of course, in the private schools itself, the least the less the regulation, the better. So usually you're trying to look for a private school in the suburbs somewhere far away from the urban areas, far away from the big cities. Trying to look for a private school, a small private school, far away from the police and from the government, from the human experiments, from the ethnic cleansing, from the depopulation programs, from everything. And of course, at the same time, you want to find a quality school. You want to also keep in touch with your child and get on a level with him that he can tell you what's happening and you can guide him through the school. By the way, for those parents who are struggling to keep their marriage in order, of course, you want to focus on the children, because I know that a lot of parents would be ready to change their attitude for their children. For the children's sake, we're going to change the way we behave. For the children's sake, we're going to, go to therapy once a week. And going to therapy once a week um, is a very good thing. I recommend it because it's like going to the dentist. Some people just never go. They never go their whole life. They never go to the dentist, and they don't have teeth. At a certain age, they got to take out the rest of their teeth and put in a few pieces of gum, and that's their teeth. So there are those who go to the dentist every half a year or whatever, and they clean their brush of teeth with the way you're supposed to, mouthwash and toothpaste, and their teeth are in good condition. The same thing is therapy for a marriage. Parents need to know. If you want to know how to deal with your kids, you need to go to counseling. And why am I saying this? Because a lot of times parents, they say, you know what, I'm not going to do to my kids what my parents did. You know what, you are, because you don't know anything else. You don't know anything better, because whatever you saw, your instincts, how do you deal with pressure? You're going to deal with it the same way your parents dealt with it. Was that a good way to deal with pressure? Probably not. Maybe not. Maybe yes. If you had good parents, good for you. So a lot of times the education you want to give starts at home, of course, but I'm going into the details now. I'm saying the parents need to be there. They need to understand that if they grew up in a system that they don't like, there were issues with their parents. If their parents were so or so or so, they're going to probably react in the same way to their children, not going to be able to help them. That's why you get someone that learned psychology for 20 years in a college, and the government will probably pay for your treatment because the government knows how important this is to have normal functioning human beings. Now, back to the education. So, of course, education, it's very important that the kid should be well rounded. The highest level in the Jewish world is the Sanhedrin. And the Sanhedrin knew every single type of idol worship. They knew 70 languages. They knew every single type of religion. They studied the world's knowledge, and they were fluid in everything there is to know. And that is the goal that you want, because it's not so much about how to react to certain situations. It's about broadening as much as possible, as much information as you can. And that's what you want to get with your child. So, obviously, a Jewish home should be full of books. You should have tons of books in your house. You should have, uh, I mean, of course, there shouldn't be just love books and love stories, and I don't know. It should be content that is worthwhile and not necessarily like, like the art of the deal to how Trump made millions. I mean, that's cute. It's good. But it's not going to help you psychologically. It's not going to help you become a healthy person. You need books that will, like, what made a very big impact on me is the Holocaust series, books about the Holocaust. I remember shaking when I was a kid. I didn't. I was shaking in my bed the whole night till the morning. I had when I finished one book of the Holocaust, but the knowledge and the tips that I got just from reading that book. Just to give a few examples, there's a part in the book where there's a guy holding. He says in the camp they had a guy holding a handful of jewelry that today would probably be worth millions of dollars, real diamonds, real gold, everything. A handful of rings and necklaces and good stuff that you see in the pirate videos. And he's trying to change it for a piece of bread. Sorry, for a piece of bread. He's trying to change a handful of gold and silver, and nobody wants to change a piece of bread with him because everybody's hungry. So this that just that itself should give you a kind of an idea of like, wow, you know, maybe a piece of bread isn't worth that much. Maybe it is. Maybe it's worth everything. Maybe gold and silver isn't worth. So maybe just to put things back into perspective, start from the survival mode. All the best, Yichia Melech. Signing out, Yossi Edry. We'll continue talking later. The point is, education is very, very important. Let's put a stress on education. The Lubavitch Rebbe, the leader of the Chabad movement, Jewish leader of our generation, the King Mashiach of our generation, his birthday is the International Education Day in the United States. Let's focus on education and make the world a better place. Yechiel Melech.